French President Emmanuel Macron is continuing his tour of Southeast Asia today. Macron began that trip with a stop in Vietnam, the first visit by a French president to the former French colony in a decade. Today, he is moving on to Indonesia. Southeast Asia is caught in the confrontation between the U.S. and China, and Macron is hoping to show France as a potential alternative trading partner, saying they know and can rely on France.
We don't want to be dependent on the great powers. We want to cooperate, but be able to choose. That means in every area of the game, our education, innovation, industry, health, energy, geopolitics, and defense. We want to be able to work with the Americans and the Chinese. We want to have the best relations in the world, but not to be dependent on them. We want our sovereignty and our stability to be respected.
We're going to talk more about Macron's trip to Southeast Asia now with Juliette LOESCH. Thanks so much for taking the time to speak to us. We just heard President Macron there warning those students in Vietnam about how everything can change on the impulse of a superpower. How much is this trip really about Macron trying to establish France as a viable alternative to countries like the United States?
Well, it is very much about that. Geopolitically, but also in business-wise. But it is not a new orientation of France, and it's been inscribed in the French Indo-Pacific strategy for many years now, even though the actual term of third way or alternative is not something that, or it's being debated within academic milieu or diplomatic milieu, but the idea that France is offering something else, something that enhances or supports the sovereignty of both France and its partners is nothing new, and it's the message that Macron delivered yesterday in Vietnam and certainly will deliver in Indonesia and in Singapore.
Well, let's start with Vietnam. What did he accomplish there exactly? What kind of deals were made?
Well, so the first thing for Emmanuel Macron was to meet again with the new Secretary General of the Vietnamese Communist Party, To Lam, who was in Paris a few months ago. So it was for them an occasion, an opportunity to foster their relationship. And of course, Macron was not alone. He was accompanied by a delegation of businessmen and women, but also representatives from other sectors of society. And the deals that were made were made in many sectors, but sectors that are critical to the relationship between both countries and that have been on the table for quite some time now. So these sectors are, for example, health, but also technology, and of course, energy transition, especially within the framework of the Just Transition Energy Partnership, or GTEP, which is a framework within which France has committed to invest 500 million euros over time.
Juliette, also in Vietnam, the French president visited a Hanoi War Memorial to those who fought against French colonial occupation, that occupation that ended in 1954 after that bloody uprising. How long a shadow does that still cast today in relations between France and Vietnam?
I'm not sure. Definitely, we can't say that it doesn't cast a shadow, in the sense that, of course, history has a legacy. But now I would say that both countries are ready to engage in deeper relation and to share this memory, and to not make it a burden, but to be rather oriented towards new perspectives together.
Juliette, just before you go, I have to ask you about that viral video of the president and the first lady coming off the plane in Hanoi in what looks to be his wife perhaps slapping him, hitting the president in the face with both hands. How bad a PR debacle was that for this very important Southeast Asia trip?
Well, I'm not sure it's my domain of expertise to comment on that gesture from Brigitte Macron, but I wouldn't say it was a PR debacle at all. I mean, it's been discussed here in France, but I don't see it as really being an obstacle for the rest of the visit.
Juliette, then just very briefly now, of course, the French president moving on toward Indonesia. What do you see coming out of that visit?
Well, the visit in Indonesia is very important. Well, they are all important, of course, but Indonesia has been a focus, a priority of the French diplomacy for some years. And President Macron and President Prabowo, the new president of Indonesia since October 2024, have a quite close relationship, and which was quite successful and in a way that France and Indonesia were able to become closer on certain sectors, especially defense cooperation, armament cooperation. But it's not only about the success of the French industry in Indonesia, it's also about cooperation on domain of on common strategic interests for both countries, especially protecting, safeguarding maritime areas, and promoting international law, especially in the South China Sea.
Juliette, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us. Juliette LOESCH, thank you.